Well, welcome to program 3 in this series about the rebirth of an MG Arkley SS by me, Graham Butterworth. So yesterday I started ripping this thing apart, getting into the suspension, etc, etc, which made me think maybe it's time to talk about the sort of tools you're going to need and the philosophy of rebuilding the car, because I've been learning a lot over the last few days. Now, this is not going to be a series of programs that shows me struggling underneath to get bits and pieces off. Too painful. Let me just say I spent 3 hours yesterday just trying to get off one bolt that held on one of the wishbones. Not a pretty sight, I assure you. But what do you need? Well, I'll tell you what you need first of all. A big bottle of plus gas. Put it on absolutely everywhere to try and free up nuts and bolts, because the chances are they're going to be well and truly stuck in some situations. Some may well come out fine, so others not easy. Yesterday, apart from normal spanners, the kind of thing I ended up having to do was using a blowtorch to literally burn the rubber off the bushes to get the wishbone out. That's how bad it was. What do you need in general? Well, you need a good set of sockets. And by the way, they are of course all AF sizes on these cars. In the old days, AF was the winner. You need a good set of combination spanners, but do bear in mind that if work's been done on the car, as it almost certainly will have done, then you may well find some bolts replaced with metric, so you need those as well. I bought a small blast cabinet for cleaning stuff up under aluminium oxide spray. I've also got a parts cleaner for cleaning oil and so forth off nice and easily without dipping it in petrol, which of course we're not allowed to do these days. And apart from that, you're going to need a whole variety of things like hammers and bits and pieces, the usual stuff. Certainly 2 jacks you're going to need, 2 decent quality hydraulic jacks, and some axle stands to put it on when it's being worked on rigidly. So you need a good set of stuff. Be prepared for the unexpected when you're taking things apart, because you may find some comes off very easily, you may find some is dreadful, and also look at all the parts very carefully. Now, what I've discovered is that it is incredibly easy to get spare parts for these cars. The variety of people, MG Owners Club, MG Hive, loads of places have spares for them. And actually, even though we're in the middle of the pandemic shortage of everything at the moment, it seems to be easier to get parts for this than it does to go to a supermarket. So it's not too bad for parts, and to be honest, the parts are so cheap that in many respects I'd say, let's take wishbones for example, don't mess about with trying to rub them down, clean them up, get rid of the rust, etc. Just buy a couple of new ones. They really are not expensive, and it will really make the car worth a lot more and look prettier, etc. So you need lots of stuff. I'm doing this in a normal double-sized garage, which is also shared with umpteen race wheels for another car, etc, etc. So doesn't need a huge amount of space because it's quite a small car, so easy enough to do. So let's move on then to the philosophy about what I'm trying to do to the car. Now, some people like to rebuild a car so that everything looks exactly as it was on the day that it came out of the factory. Good luck to them, and great. I was leaving school the year after this was built, and I know then that the car was pretty outdated in many respects, and when I owned one later on, I found out to my own surprise just how weak some of the handling tendencies were. Nice little fun car, but not the greatest car on the road. And of course, compared to cars now, what, 50 years on, then it's a long way behind. So some changes needed. The biggest weakness on the car is that it's got lever arm shock absorbers on the front and rear, very old fashioned, and the rear axle is very liable to move from one side to another as you go around a corner. So a number of things to improve it. Now I bought a set of equipment from a company called Frontline Developments. Looks very good. So I've ended up getting some springs, nice springs. They are slightly shorter to lower the car, substantially higher compression, much stiffer springs. So that will firm up the handling because it was pretty horrible. The damper unit at the top is replaced with this, a nice a nice strong lever arm system, and that, very importantly, bolts onto this, a nice adjustable, note, shock absorber, proper shock absorber, which will make a tremendous difference to the handling. So that's for the front end. Rear end later on, same sort of thing. It's going to be outrated with better dampers, etc, etc. The brakes, they're improved. I'm actually using the original discs, which were in very good condition. They didn't look like they were really been used, but I've thrown away the calipers. They were old, they were horrible, they were tatty. Thrown them away, new calipers and uprated brake pads. And on top of it all, I'm fitting a new, more powerful servo. This car originally didn't have a servo at all. This one had one fitted, which was not terribly good. The feel was dreadful, and it clearly had a fault in the system. So thrown that lot all away, an entire new brake system going on the car, and that includes new piping all the way through. Every inch of it is brand new. So that will hopefully give me the confidence that I'm going to have some brakes when I put my foot down. And most importantly, I've got to change these pedals down here that mean I can't get full throttle without hitting the brake pedal as well, which is not exactly ideal. So when the car is finished in that respect, it will then be a lot safer and easier to drive. It will be a nicer car to drive. Then the next job is to whip out the engine and first of all, just tidy the whole area up. It looks horrible at the moment. Tidy the whole area up. There are some basic oil seals that have gone on the engine. They always did on these old cars. So a change of seals and so forth on the engine, an upgrade to the sealing system, and then hopefully we'll have a nice clean car once it's all been painted, smartened up and put back together with some new wiring, etc, etc. So not good as new, it's going to be better than new, and I look forward to telling you some more in the future.